The escape pod tumbled through the darkness like a broken toy thrown by an angry child. Inside, Ji-woo pressed her trembling hands against the cold metal wall, trying to stop the world from spinning. Red emergency lights flickered on and off, making everything look like a nightmare she couldn't wake up from. 5 minutes ago, she had been sitting in her seat on the passenger ship, reading about alien plant life. Then the storm hit. The ion storm tore through their convoy like paper, and suddenly everyone was screaming, running, trying to reach the escape pods. Ji-woo barely made it into one before the ship's hull ripped apart. Now she was alone. Completely alone in a part of space where no one should ever be. The computer screen in front of her kept flashing the same message over and over. Critical damage, life support failing, navigation offline. She didn't need a computer to tell her she was in trouble. The air already felt thin, and the cold was creeping into her bones. Ji-woo was a scientist, not a soldier. She studied plants and organisms that might help people live together peacefully. She had spent her whole life on Titan's Korean settlement, in labs and greenhouses, safe and warm. Her parents had always told her to be careful, to think before acting, to use her brain instead of taking risks. They would have been terrified if they could see her now, but her parents were gone. They died when she was 17, in a colony accident where help came too late. That's why she became a scientist. She wanted to prevent disasters, not survive them. The pod shook violently, and something sparked behind the control panel. Ji-woo jumped back, her heart racing. She checked the oxygen meter. 4 hours left. Maybe less if the systems kept failing. She activated the distress beacon with shaking fingers. The signal went out into the void, weak and desperate. The dark flow expanse, they called this region. Ships that entered rarely came back. Navigation systems went crazy here, and rescue operations were forbidden by Alliance law. Too dangerous. Too many had died trying to save others in this cursed sector of space. Ji-woo closed her eyes and tried not to cry. She was going to die out here, alone in the dark, and no one would even try to find her. It was logical. It made sense. Why risk many lives for one person? But it still felt wrong. 3 hours passed. The cold was worse now. Ji-woo had wrapped herself in the emergency blanket, but it barely helped. She could see her breath in the air. The oxygen meter showed 2 hours remaining. She had stopped checking it every 5 minutes. What was the point? She thought about her work, about the research station she would never reach. She had been so excited about the assignment. A chance to study new life forms, to maybe find something that could help prevent conflicts between species. Now someone else would do that work. Someone else would make those discoveries. Her eyes felt heavy. She knew that was bad. Falling asleep in cold like this meant you might not wake up. But she was so tired. Then the computer beeped. Not the usual warning beep, but something different. Ji-woo forced her eyes open and looked at the screen. Incoming transmission. Her heart jumped. She pressed the button with numb fingers. A voice came through the static, deep and calm, with an accent she couldn't quite place. This is the freight hauler, Lonesome Trail to Escape Pod in distress. I'm reading your beacon, ma'am. Hang tight. I'm coming to get you. Ji-woo's voice came out as a whisper. You can't. This is the dark flow. Rescue operations are forbidden. You'll get lost too. Silence for a moment. Then the voice came back, and she could hear the smile in it. Ma'am, I don't leave folks behind. Not my way. Besides, I've gotten out of tighter spots than this. But the regulations. Never been much good at following regulations when they don't make sense. You just keep breathing. You hear? I'll be there soon. The transmission ended. Ji-woo stared at the screen, not sure if she had imagined the whole thing. Someone was coming for her? Someone was actually entering the dark flow expanse to save her. She checked her systems again. The beacon was definitely transmitting. This was real. 40 minutes later, the computer detected another ship. Ji-woo watched the scanner with wide eyes as the signal got stronger. He was really coming. Whoever he was actually coming into this impossible place to rescue her. The lonesome trail appeared on her visual screen, and Ji-woo almost laughed. It wasn't a sleek rescue vessel or a military ship. It was an old freight hauler, patched and modified so many times it looked like it was held together with hope and wire. But it was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. The voice came back through the speakers. "Got a visual on you, ma'am. I'm gonna match your tumble and dock. Might get a little rough, but I've done this before." "Well, not exactly this, but close enough. Who are you?" Ji-woo asked. "Name's Dae-young. I'm guessing you've got maybe 90 minutes of air left based on your pod's model. So let's save the introductions for when you're aboard and breathing proper." The freight hauler moved closer, adjusting its position with small thruster bursts. Ji-woo could see it was difficult. Her pod was spinning, damaged, unpredictable. But Dae-young matched her movement like he had done it 1,000 times. There was a loud clang as the ships connected. Then the hiss of the docking seal pressurizing. The inner door of her pod opened and warm air rushed in. Ji-woo gasped, not realizing how cold she had become. A man stood in the airlock. He was tall, dressed in worn work clothes and a battered jacket. On his head sat an old-style cowboy hat that looked completely out of place in space, but somehow suited him perfectly. His face was kind but serious, and his eyes checked her over with the efficiency of someone who had seen emergencies before. "Can you walk?" he asked. Ji-woo tried to stand, but her legs wouldn't work right. The cold and fear had taken too much out of her. Dae-young stepped forward and caught her before she fell. "That's all right. I've got you." He lifted her easily, carrying her into his ship. "Let's get you warm and breathing right. Then we can worry about the small problem of being stuck in the dark flow together." As the airlock closed behind them, Ji-woo managed to whisper, "Thank you." Dae-young looked down at her with a slight smile. "Don't thank me yet, ma'am. Getting to you was the easy part. Getting us both out is going to be the real trick." The freight hauler sealed up, and they moved deeper into the ship. Ji-woo could feel warmth returning to her fingers and toes, painful but wonderful. She was alive. Against all logic and regulations and common sense, someone had come for her in the darkness. And now they were both lost together. Dae-young laid Ji-woo on a medical cot in the small sick bay and wrapped 2 more thermal blankets around her. Her skin was pale, almost blue, and her breathing came in short gasps. He had seen hypothermia before during his military days. She needed time and warmth, but time was something they didn't have much of. "Computer," he called out. "Medical scan on our guest." A calm, artificial voice responded. Scanning. Subject shows moderate hypothermia, early-stage oxygen deprivation, and minor shock. Recommended treatment: warming protocols, oxygen supplementation, and rest. Yeah, I figured that much myself. Dae-young placed an oxygen mask over Ji-woo's face and adjusted the flow. "Keep her stable. I need to figure out where we are." He left the sick bay and headed to the bridge. The lonesome trail was old, but reliable. Modified over years of freelance work to handle situations most ships couldn't. Right now, though, even his tough old hauler was struggling. The navigation screens showed nothing but static and error messages. The dark flow expanse was living up to its reputation. Electromagnetic interference scrambled every system that relied on standard sensors. His ship's computer couldn't figure out which way was up, let alone plot a course home. Dae-young sat in his pilot chair and pulled out a notebook. Actual paper, the kind nobody used anymore. Inside were hand-drawn star charts and notes written in pen. His grandfather had taught him the old ways when he was a kid in Texas. "Technology fails, boy," the old man had said. "But if you know the stars and trust your gut, you'll always find your way." He started calculating their position using what little visual data he could gather. It was slow work, like trying to find your house in a city where all the street signs were gone. But it was something. 2 hours later, Ji-woo appeared in the bridge doorway. She looked better, with color back in her cheeks, but she moved carefully, like everything hurt. "You should be resting," Dae-young said without looking up from his charts. "I'm all right now. Thank you for saving my life." She came closer, looking at his paper notebook with curiosity. "What are you doing?" "Trying to figure out where we are and how to get us out." He tapped the paper with his pen. "Navigation systems are useless here, so I'm doing it the old-fashioned way." Ji-woo sat in the co-pilot seat, studying the charts. "This is remarkable. I've only seen methods like this in history books. My grandfather was a pilot back on Earth. He taught me that tech is great until it isn't. Then you need to rely on basics." Dae-young finally looked at her. "I'm Dae-young, by the way, since we didn't properly introduce ourselves." "Ji-woo. I'm a xenobiologist. I was traveling to a research station before." She gestured vaguely at the chaos around them. "Before the universe decided to throw you a curveball." "Yeah, I know how that goes." He smiled slightly. "Well, Ji-woo, I'm glad you're feeling better. But I won't lie to you. We're in a tight spot. This region messes with every modern navigation system. Most ships that come in here never come out." "Then why did you come?" The question hung in the air. Dae-young was quiet for a moment, then shrugged. "Because you needed help, and nobody else was coming. That's reason enough." Ji-woo studied his face. "You were Alliance Marine, weren't you? I can tell from the way you carry yourself. Long time ago. Now I'm just a freight hauler trying to make an honest living. Well, mostly honest." He grinned. "I was running medical supplies to a frontier colony when I picked up your beacon. Contraband medicine, technically, but the colony needed it and couldn't afford Alliance prices." Before Ji-woo could respond, the ship's computer spoke up. "Warning. Multiple objects approaching at high speed. Configuration suggests automated defense systems." Dae-young was out of his seat instantly, hands flying over the controls. "Strap in, now." Ji-woo barely got her safety harness on before the ship lurched hard to the left. Through the window, she saw them, sleek metal drones, dozens of them, moving in perfect formation. They looked ancient but deadly. "What are those?" she asked, gripping her armrest as Dae-young threw the ship into a spinning dive. "Defense drones. This whole region must be some kind of ancient security system. Still active after who knows how many thousands of years." He pulled up hard, narrowly avoiding a blast of energy that lit up the space where they had just been. They really don't like visitors. The Lonesome Trail wasn't built for combat, but Dae-young flew it like a fighter ship. He used every trick he knew, dodging between debris fields, cutting power to confuse their sensors, and making turns that made Ji-woo's stomach flip. "There's too many of them," she shouted over the alarms. "I know." Dae-young sent the ship into a barrel roll, and 2 drones collided trying to follow. "We need to find cover or lose them somehow." Ji-woo's mind raced. She was a scientist, not a fighter. But maybe that's exactly what they needed. Wait, if these are automated systems, they're following programming. Ancient programming. Great time for a lecture. Dae-young grunted, throwing the ship sideways. "No, listen. I study organisms and systems, including artificial ones. Every defense system has rules it follows. We need to figure out what makes these drones attack and what makes them ignore targets." Another blast rocked the ship. Dae-young checked his screens. Shields at 40%. We've got maybe 5 more minutes before they punch through. Then we have 5 minutes to solve this. Ji Woo unbuckled and moved to the science station, ignoring Dae-young's protest. Her fingers worked fast across the sensors, gathering data on the drone's behavior patterns. "They're targeting our engine signature," she said after a moment. "But not just any ship. They're targeting specific energy frequencies." "Can we change our frequency?" "Maybe. If I can create a biological virus to reprogram them, make them think we're friendly." Ji Woo was already pulling up chemical formulas on the screen. "But I need time and materials. Time we don't have much of." Dae-young sent them diving toward a massive piece of ancient debris. "But materials, maybe. Check the cargo bay. I've got everything from medical supplies to machine parts back there." Ji Woo ran to the cargo bay while Dae-young kept the drones busy. She found what she needed: medical synthesizers, chemical compounds, and basic electronics. It wasn't the proper lab, but she had worked with less before. Her hands moved with practiced skill, combining compounds and programming the medical synthesizer to create something new. A biological virus that could interface with ancient technology. It was theoretical, something she had only read about in research papers. But theory was all they had right now. 30 minutes later, she returned to the bridge with a small device. "This should work. It will broadcast a signal that rewrites the drone's targeting protocols. At least, that's the theory." Dae-young looked at the device, then at her. "You built that from my cargo. Your medical supplies are very high quality, even if they are contraband." She allowed herself a small smile. "How do we deploy it?" "We broadcast it through our communications array. But we'll need to get close enough for it to work." He thought for a moment. "And we'll need to distract them first. Can't have them blowing us up before your virus takes effect." "How do we distract automated drones?" Dae-young's grin was wild. "We give them something more interesting to shoot at." He brought the ship around and headed straight for the largest cluster of drones. "This is either brilliant or the dumbest thing I've ever done. Maybe both." As they approached, Dae-young started dumping cargo into space. Metal containers, supplies, anything that would show up on sensors. The drones immediately targeted the new objects, confused by the sudden multiplication of targets. "Now!" he shouted. Ji Woo activated her device. The signal pulsed out from their ship, invisible but powerful. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Ji Woo held her breath. Then one drone stopped firing. Then another. Then 5 more. They hung in space, their lights changing from red to blue. "It's working," Ji Woo whispered. The reprogrammed drones turned and began attacking their former companions. Within minutes, the immediate threat was gone. The remaining hostile drones retreated, apparently deciding the area was too dangerous. Dae-young let out a breath he had been holding. "That was incredible. You just rewrote ancient alien technology with medical supplies and pure brain power." "We did it together," Ji Woo corrected. "Your flying kept us alive long enough for the virus to work." They shared a tired smile. But the celebration was short-lived. A new alarm sounded. "Unknown vessel approaching," the computer announced. "Configuration matches Vector Dominion Military." Dae-young checked the sensors and cursed. "That's a patrol ship. And they're hailing us." He opened the channel. A harsh voice filled the bridge, translated by the computer. "Human vessel, you are trespassing in restricted space. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded." "This isn't vector space," Dae-young replied calmly. "It's unclaimed territory. The dark flow expanse is under Dominion observation. You will comply or be destroyed." Ji Woo looked at Dae-young with worry. The Vector were known for their strict enforcement and their dislike of humans. Being caught here could mean imprisonment or worse. Dae-young closed the channel and turned to her. How many drones did your virus reprogram? About 15. Why? Because we might need them. He opened the channel again. Vector vessel, with respect, we're not going anywhere. We're recovering from an emergency situation. Your compliance is not optional, human. Yeah, well, neither is my survival. Dae-Young cut the channel and looked at Ji-Woo. Can you Jones from trail drifted in the strange energy currents of the dark flow expanse, running on minimal power to avoid attracting more attention. Dae-Young and Ji-Woo had been working for 6 hours straight, trying to understand what they had unleashed. The reprogrammed drones stayed near their ship, circling like protective dogs. But the energy readings from deeper in the dark flow were getting stronger. Something was waking up, and they had triggered it. I'm picking up patterns in the energy fluctuations, Ji-Woo said, studying her screens with tired eyes. They're not random. It's almost like communication. Dae-Young brought her a cup of coffee from the small galley. Real coffee, not the synthetic stuff most ships carried. Communication with what? I don't know. But whatever it is, it's old. Really old. She accepted the coffee gratefully. The drones we reprogrammed are part of a larger network. My virus didn't just change them. It sent a signal through the whole system. Like knocking on a door? More like ringing a very loud doorbell in a house where someone's been sleeping for thousands of years. Ji-Woo rubbed her eyes. I'm sorry. I didn't think it would do this. Don't apologize for saving our lives. Dae-Young sat beside her at the science station. We needed those drones to keep the Vector off our backs. You did what you had to do. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. The stress of the past day was catching up to both of them, but neither wanted to sleep. Not when something unknown was stirring in the darkness around them. Can I ask you something? Ji-Woo said quietly. Sure. Why did you really come for me? You said you don't leave people behind, but there must be more to it. You risked everything entering the dark flow. Dae-Young was quiet for a long time. His fingers traced the rim of his coffee cup. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft but heavy with old pain. I had a younger sister, Hana. She was 12 when there was an accident at the colony where we lived. Mining explosion, structural collapse. She was trapped with 20 other people. He paused, staring at something far away. Alliance regulations said it was too dangerous to attempt rescue. The area wasn't stable. They might lose more people trying to save them. Ji-Woo felt her heart sink. She already knew how this story ended. So they waited. Did risk assessments. Filed reports. Followed all the proper procedures. Dae-Young's jaw tightened. By the time they decided it was safe enough to try, everyone inside was dead. Including Hannah. I'm so sorry. That's when I learned that sometimes regulations and logic and playing it safe means people die who didn't have to. He looked at Ji-Woo. When I heard your beacon, I heard Hana calling for help. And this time, I could do something about it. That's why I came. Ji-Woo reached out and gently touched his hand. My parents died in a colony accident, too. I was 17. The rescue teams came too late because of jurisdictional disputes between companies. Everyone argued about who was responsible while people suffocated. Dae-Young turned his hand over, holding hers. That's why you became a scientist? To prevent these things? I wanted to find ways to help species work together instead of fighting over regulations and territories. I thought if I could just find the right research, make the right discovery, maybe I could stop people from dying for stupid reasons. She smiled sadly. Turns out the universe had other plans. The universe always does. Dae-Young squeezed her hand. But we're still here. Still fighting. That counts for something. The computer interrupted their moment. Alert. Energy surge detected. Multiple sources activating throughout the dark flow region. They jumped to their stations. The sensors showed dozens, then hundreds of energy signatures coming online. Ancient systems waking up after who knew how many millennia of sleep. It's the whole network, Jiwoo said, her fingers flying over the controls. The drones, the defense grid, everything. And there's something at the center. Something massive. On the main screen, the stars began to move. No, not the stars. Something between them and the stars. Something so huge it blocked out the light as it emerged from dormancy. It looked like a station, but larger than any structure Jiwoo had ever seen. Shaped like a ring, it rotated slowly, covered in lights that pulsed in mathematical sequences. The drones around the Lonesome Trail suddenly oriented toward it, as if acknowledging their master. "What is that?" Da-young whispered before Jiwoo could answer. Their communication system activated on its own. No voice came through, just pure data streaming across their screens. Numbers, symbols, patterns that made Jiwoo's head hurt to look at. "It's trying to communicate," she said, amazed. "It's using mathematics as a language. Can you understand it?" "Some of it. It's asking questions. Testing us." Jiwoo's hands shook as she tried to formulate responses using mathematical formulas. She had studied xenocommunication, but this was beyond anything in her training. The exchange went on for 20 minutes. Jiwoo answering questions about who they were, where they came from, why they were here. The ancient AI seemed fascinated by the concept of humans, a species it had never encountered before. Then the energy readings spiked dangerously. The ring station fired a beam of pure force that passed within meters of their ship. Was that a warning shot? Da-young had his hands on the controls, ready to run. "No, it's a test." Jiwoo continued working. "It wants to see how we react under stress, whether we fight, flee, or try to communicate." Another beam lanced out, closer this time. Then another. The station was boxing them in, cutting off escape routes, watching their every move. Do-young gritted his teeth but kept the ship steady. "I really hope you know what you're doing." "So do I," Jiwoo admitted. She sent another stream of mathematical data, explaining that they meant no harm, that they were just trying to survive. The beam stopped. The ring station pulsed with light, and more data streamed through. Jiwoo laughed in relief and disbelief. "It's curious about us. It says most species it encounters either run away or try to destroy it. We're the first to attempt actual communication. That's humans for you. Too stubborn to run, too smart to just shoot." Da-young relaxed slightly. "What does it want?" "It's asking about our purpose, our goals. I think it's been alone for a very long time." As Jiwoo continued the delicate communication, the sensor alarms went off again. The Vector had returned, and this time they brought friends. 5 warships appeared at the edge of the dark flow, their weapons powered and ready. The lead ship hailed them. "Human vessel, you have activated Forbidden's technology. By order of the Vector Dominion, you will stand down immediately or be destroyed." Da-young opened the channel. "We're kind of in the middle of something here. How about you come back later? Your disrespect will be noted. All vessels, target the human ship." The Vector fleet advanced, apparently willing to risk the dark flow's dangers to stop whatever was happening. But as they crossed into the region, the ring station reacted. The reprogrammed drones were just the beginning. Hundreds of defense platforms activated, emerging from dormant positions throughout the expanse. Energy weapons that had slept for thousands of years came online, all targeting the Vector ships. "Attention all vessels." Jiwoo broadcast using the ancient station's communication protocols. "You are intruding on protected space. Leave now or face defensive measures." The Vector commander's voice was sharp with fear. "You cannot control these systems." "Can't we?" Da-young cut in. Seems to me you're about 5 seconds from finding out exactly what we can control. Now, I suggest you point those ships around and head home before the universe's oldest security system decides you're a threat. One vector ship fired at a defense platform. The platform's return fire was instant and devastating, shearing off the ship's weapon array in one blast. The other ships immediately began retreating. "This is not over, humans," the commander shouted as they fled. Yeah. Tell it to someone who cares." Tae-young closed the channel and turned to Gi-woo. "Please tell me you actually can control these things, and that wasn't just a very dangerous bluff." Ji-woo's smile was uncertain. "Partial control. The station seems to trust us for now, but it's still running its tests." She looked at the massive ring structure. "I don't think we've seen the hardest one yet." The station pulsed again, and new data streamed through. Ji-woo's expression grew serious as she read it. "What's it saying?" Tae-young asked. "It wants us to prove we're worthy of knowledge it's been guarding for eons." She turned to him. "It's about to make things much more difficult. Are you ready?" Tae-young checked their systems, their supplies, their weapons. Everything was running low. They were damaged, tired, and stuck in the most dangerous region of space. By any logical measure, they should give up. But he thought about Hana, about all the people who died because others played it safe, about the woman sitting next to him who had survived against impossible odds. "Born ready," he said. "Let's show this ancient computer what humans are made of." The ring station's next test began without warning. Energy beams shot out from multiple points, creating a maze of deadly light around the lonesome trail. The beams moved in patterns, shifting and changing every few seconds. "It wants us to navigate through," Ji-woo said, reading the mathematical instructions flowing across her screen. "Without getting hit." Tae-young studied the pattern. The beams moved fast, seemingly random, but nothing this sophisticated would be truly random. "There's a rhythm to it. Watch. Every 7 seconds, the pattern repeats with slight variations. Can you fly through that?" "I can try." He gripped the controls. "But I'll need you to tell me when the variations are coming." Ji-woo pulled up the pattern analysis on her screen, her scientific mind breaking down the mathematical sequence. "Go on 3. 1, 2, 3. The lonesome trail shot forward. Tae-young flew like he was threading a needle, banking and rolling between beams that missed them by meters, sometimes centimeters. Ji-woo called out changes in the pattern, and he adjusted instantly, pilot and scientist working as one. They made it through the first section. The second was harder, with more beams and faster movements. Tae-young's hands flew over the controls, sweat on his forehead. The old freight hauler groaned with the strain, never designed for such precise maneuvering. "Variation in 5 seconds," Ji-woo warned. "The entire pattern will reverse." "Got it." Tae-young spun the ship around, flying backward through the maze without hesitation. A beam grazed their shields, dropping them to 60%. "Almost there," Ji-woo said. "Final section coming up." "It's... Oh no. What?" "This pattern has no solution. It's mathematically impossible to get through without being hit." Tae-young grinned despite the danger. "Then we make our own solution." He killed the engines. The ship went into a dead drift, momentum carrying them forward while the beams passed overhead and below. Without engine signature, the beams couldn't track them properly. They glided through the impossible section like a leaf on the wind. When they emerged on the other side, the beams disappeared. The ring station pulsed with what Ji-woo could only interpret as approval. "It liked that," she said. "We weren't supposed to solve it the way it expected. It wanted to see us improvise." "Good, because improvising is kind of our specialty." Tae-young checked their systems. "Though our shields are down to 50%, and we're using fuel faster than I'd like. New data appeared on Ji-Woo's screen. She read it and her expression grew worried. The next test is different. It wants me to solve a series of biological puzzles. Ancient genetic sequences that need to be decoded. Can you do it? I think so. It's what I trained for, but... She pointed to another reading. While I'm doing that, the station is going to attack you. It wants to see if we can work separately while under pressure. Dae-young nodded. Like a real crew. We can handle it. You focus on your puzzles. I'll keep us in one piece. The second test began. Ji-Woo's screen filled with complex genetic patterns. DNA sequences from species that existed before humanity even evolved. She had to identify relationships, predict mutations, solve problems that would stump most xenobiologists. Meanwhile, automated defense drones emerged and began firing at the ship. Not the reprogrammed ones they had created, but fresh attackers from the station's reserves. Dae-young launched into evasive maneuvers, using every trick he knew. He returned fire with their limited weapons, trying to damage drones without destroying them. The station seemed to want him to fight smart, not hard. How are you doing? He called out between shots. This genetic sequence is incredible, Ji-Woo said, her fingers dancing across her controls. It's a blueprint for a species that could survive in any environment. If I could just... She entered a command. Got it. First puzzle solved. Great. Because I've got 10 angry drones and our shields are at 30%. Ji-Woo moved to the second puzzle while Dae-young spun the ship through a debris field, using the ancient wreckage as cover. A drone fired, and the blast hit a piece of debris instead, destroying the attacker with its own reflected shot. That's 9, Dae-young counted. Keep going. I've got this. But he didn't, not really. The drones were learning from his tactics, adapting to his moves. One got a clean shot at their engine, and alarms blared throughout the ship. Engine hit. The computer announced. Damage to port thruster. Performance reduced by 40%. Dae-young fought to control the ship as it listed to one side. Ji-Woo, how many more puzzles? 3. But they're getting harder. She was completely focused on the genetic sequences, trusting him to keep them alive while she worked. With damaged engines, Dae-young couldn't outmaneuver the drones anymore. He had to outthink them. He led them on a chase toward the ring station itself, then cut all power at the last second. The ship went dark and drifted while the drone shot past, unable to stop in time. They crashed into the station's shields and exploded. That's all of them, Dae-young said. But we're running on emergency power now. How close are you? One puzzle left. It's asking me to predict the evolutionary path of a theoretical organism under impossible conditions. Ji-Woo's eyes scanned the data. This is testing whether I understand adaptation at a fundamental level. The station wasn't done with Dae-young either. The ring began to rotate faster, creating gravitational effects that pulled at their ship. He had to constantly adjust their position to avoid being drawn into the massive structure or flung into the darkness. Ji-Woo, I hate to rush you, but I know. Just give me a minute. She studied the genetic patterns, seeing relationships that most scientists would miss. Her years of research, her natural talent, everything came together in one moment of perfect understanding. She entered the solution. For 3 seconds. Nothing happened. Then the station pulsed with brilliant light. The gravitational effects stopped. The test was complete. Data streamed across both their screens, and Ji-Woo gasped. It's opening up. Sharing information. These are genetic templates for peaceful species, organisms that could help prevent conflicts. This is exactly what I've been searching for. That's great, but we've got a problem. Dae-young pointed to the sensors. The Vector are back. And this time, they brought their whole fleet. At least 20 ships. The Vector commander's voice came through, cold and angry. You have activated ancient builder technology. This cannot be permitted. Surrender now or be destroyed along with the station. They're going to attack, Jiwoo said. They see the station as a threat. Can we stop them? Jiwoo looked at the data the station was sharing. Among the genetic templates and scientific knowledge was something else. Weapon systems. The builders had created this station not just to preserve knowledge, but to defend it. Yes, she said quietly. But it would mean destroying those ships. Killing everyone aboard. Taeyong was silent. He had been a Marine. He understood war. But he also understood that every life on those ships was someone's brother, sister, friend. Someone who would be missed if they didn't come home. There has to be another way, he said. Can we talk to them? Make them understand? They won't listen. Their culture sees humans as inferior. They'll never accept that we could control something they can't. Then we make them listen. Taeyong opened the channel to the entire Vector fleet. Attention all ships. I know you think we're a threat. I know your regulations say this station should be destroyed. But before you do something you can't take back, you need to understand what this place really is. He paused, gathering his thoughts. This station was built by a species that came before all of us. They left it here to preserve knowledge, to help the species that came after them. That's us. All of us. Vector human, everyone. Human arrogance, the commander replied. You know nothing of the builders. Jiwoo cut in. The builders left a message. I can share it with you. Let me send you the data. Do not attempt to Jiwoo transmit it anyway, sending the mathematical sequences directly to the Vector ships. She knew their scientists would be monitoring communications. She just had to hope they were curious enough to look. Minutes passed. The Vector fleet held position, weapons still charged, but not firing. Finally, a different voice came through. Older, calmer. This is Scholar Ventok of the Vector Science course. We have reviewed the data. These are genuine builder protocols. How did you access them? We asked nicely, Taeyong said. And we proved we were worthy. You could do the same if you wanted knowledge instead of conquest. More silence. Then the scholar spoke again. The data indicates a threat. The builders left warnings of something that will return. An enemy they could not defeat. Then maybe we should work together, Jiwoo suggested. Study this information. Prepare for whatever's coming. Fighting each other doesn't help anyone. The Vector commander's voice returned, but less hostile. We will consider this. But you will remain here until our science course can verify everything. Can't do that, Taeyong said. Our ship is damaged. We need to get out of the dark flow before we run out of supplies. The ring station pulsed again. More data appeared on Jiwoo's screen, and she smiled. The station is offering to help us. It can guide us out if we agree to carry its message to the galaxy. Information about the threat. About the builders. About what's coming. Taeyong looked at her. That's a big responsibility. It's also our way home. She met his eyes. Together? He smiled. Together. The ring station transferred massive amounts of data to the Lonesome Trail's computers. Information about the builders, their technology, their final warnings about an enemy that would one day return from the darkness beyond known space. It was more knowledge than any single ship should carry, and it came with a heavy burden. We're receiving navigation coordinates, Jiwoo said, studying her screens. The station is creating a safe path through the dark flow. But we need to leave now, while the energy patterns are stable. Taeyong checked their systems. The ship was barely holding together. Engine repairs had stopped the immediate damage, but they were running on luck and prayer. How long will this path stay open? Maybe 30 minutes. After that, the dark flow will shift again, and we'll be trapped. Then we better not waste time. He opened a channel to the Vector fleet. We're leaving. Try not to shoot us on the way out. Scholar Ventic responded. We will escort you to the boundary of the dark flow. The commander has agreed to allow your departure. But know this, human. If the information you carry proves false, there will be consequences. It's real, Jiwoo said firmly. And you'll see that soon enough. The Lonesome Trail began its journey out of the dark flow expanse, following the path the ancient station provided. The Vector ships maintained position around them, weapons powered down but ready. It wasn't trust, but it was better than open warfare. As they flew, Jiwoo couldn't stop studying the data. This is incredible. The builders weren't just one species. They were a coalition of dozens of races working together. And they faced something that threatened all of them. What happened to them? Ji Young asked. The records aren't clear. But whatever enemy they fought, it's still out there, waiting. She looked at him with concern. The builders left these stations throughout the galaxy as warnings, as preparation for when the enemy returns. How long do we have? I don't know. Could be years. Could be centuries. She paused. Or it could be tomorrow. The ship shuddered as it passed through a particularly turbulent section of the dark flow. Dae-Young's hands stayed steady on the controls, but alarms were going off all over the ship. Their shields were down to 15%, and the port engine was threatening to fail completely. Come on, old girl, he muttered to his ship. Just a little further. Ji-Woo noticed his jaw was tight with pain. You're hurt. From the earlier battle. It's nothing. Just some bruised ribs from when we took that hit. Let me, after we're out. Right now, I need to focus on flying. But she could see the sweat on his forehead, the way he favored his left side. 20 minutes into their escape, disaster struck. The port engine finally gave out completely. The Lonesome Trail lurched, and their trajectory shifted dangerously close to a deadly energy field. Engine failure, the computer announced helpfully. I can see that. Dae-Young fought the controls, trying to compensate with just the starboard engine. The ship responded sluggishly, listing to one side. The path the station had created was narrow, and without full engine power, they couldn't stay in it. They were drifting toward the edge, toward the chaotic energy that would tear them apart. We're not going to make it on one engine, Jiwoo said. Yes, we are. Dae-Young's voice was determined. I didn't come all this way to fail now. He shut down all non-essential systems, rerouting every bit of power to the remaining engine. Life support went to minimum. Lights dimmed. The ship became cold and dark, except for the glow of the control panels. Dae-Young, we need life support. We need to get out more. 15 minutes. We can hold our breath for 15 minutes if we have to. It was insane. It was dangerous. It was exactly the kind of stubborn human determination that drove other species crazy. Ji-Woo found herself smiling despite the fear. All right, Cowboy. Let's do it your way. The Lonesome Trail limped forward, pushed beyond its limits by a pilot who refused to accept failure. The Vector ships watched in what Ji-Woo imagined was a mixture of horror and fascination. No sane species would risk death to escape, when they could simply wait for a rescue that might never come. But humans weren't always sane. Sometimes they were just stubborn. 10 minutes passed. The temperature inside the ship dropped to near freezing. Ji-Woo wrapped herself in blankets and watched their progress. They were so close to the edge of the dark flow. The boundary was visible on sensors, marked by stable space and normal stellar readings. 5 minutes. Dae-Young's hands were shaking from cold and pain, but he never let go of the controls. His breath came in short gasps, ribs protesting every movement. But still he flew. 2 minutes. The ship's remaining engine began to overheat, pushed far beyond safe parameters. Red warnings flashed everywhere. 1 minute. They could see normal space through the window now. Stars that didn't shift and energy readings that made sense. We're going to make it, Ji Woo whispered. The lonesome trail crossed the boundary of the dark flow expanse and entered normal space. Immediately, their navigation systems came back online. Sensors started making sense again. They were free. Dae-young reactivated life support and slumped in his chair, exhausted. Told you. Ji Woo unbuckled and rushed to him. You're hurt badly. Let me help. This time he didn't argue. She examined his ribs carefully, then pulled out the medical supplies. 3 ribs were cracked, and he had been flying in agony for the past half hour. You should have said something, she scolded while treating him, saying something wouldn't have fixed it. Engine. He winced as she applied medical wraps. Besides, we made it. That's what counts. The Vector fleet emerged from the dark flow behind them. Scholar Ventic hailed immediately. That was the most reckless piloting I have ever witnessed. You should have died a dozen times. But I didn't. Dae-young replied. That's kind of humanity's thing. We survive when we shouldn't. Clearly, there was something like respect in the scholar's voice. We have verified the data you shared. It is genuine. The Vector Science Corps will study this information. Perhaps we can collaborate in the future. We'd like that, Ji Woo said. The builders wanted species to work together. Maybe we can honor that. The Vector ships changed course and left, heading back to their territory. The commander didn't say goodbye, but the scholar transmitted one final message. Safe travels, humans. You have given the galaxy much to consider. Alone in normal space, with their ship barely functional, Dae-young and Ji Woo sat together on the bridge. Alliance rescue ships were already on their way, alerted by the Vector transmission about unusual activity in the dark flow region. We did it, Ji Woo said. We survived the dark flow. We made contact with builder technology. We even got the Vector to listen to us. We make a good team. Dae-young smiled, though it clearly hurt his ribs. You with your science, me with my flying. Maybe the universe threw us together for a reason. Maybe it did. She looked at the data still streaming through their computers. This information needs to be shared. I'll have to go to the Alliance Science Council. Probably spend years analyzing it all. Sounds important. It is, she hesitated. What will you do? Dae-young looked at his battered ship, his home among the stars. Same thing I always do. Haul freight. Help people who need it. Keep flying. He glanced at her. Though I suppose I'll be flying alone again. Ji Woo was quiet for a moment. Then she made a decision that surprised both of them. What if you weren't? Flying alone, I mean. What are you saying? I'm saying I have information to share and research to conduct. But I don't have to do it from some Alliance station. I could work from anywhere. Even from an old freight hauler. She met his eyes. If the pilot was willing to have a xenobiologist as a permanent passenger. Dae-young's smile grew wider despite the pain. Ma'am, I'd be honored. Though I should warn you, the accommodations aren't fancy. The work is dangerous, and we'll probably end up in more trouble than you can imagine. I've been lost in the dark flow and survived. I think I can handle a little trouble. She smiled back. Besides, someone needs to make sure you don't get yourself killed doing something heroic and stupid. That's fair. The Alliance rescue ships arrived an hour later. They found the lonesome trail damaged but intact, carrying 2 humans who had accomplished the impossible. News spread quickly. 2 civilians had entered the dark flow expanse, made contact with ancient builder technology, and emerged with information that would change galactic understanding of history. The Alliance wanted to take Ji Woo immediately for debriefing. They wanted to impound Daeung's ship for study. They had questions, demands, and protocols. Daeung politely but firmly told them where they could put their protocols. The ship was his. The information was freely shared. And Ji-woo was going wherever she wanted. And what she wanted was to stay. Weeks later, after repairs and endless debriefings, the lonesome trail was ready to fly again. Daeung and Ji-woo stood on the bridge, looking at their first official assignment together, delivering medical supplies to a frontier colony. Legal ones this time, paid for by the Alliance as thanks for the builder information. Ready to go? Daeung asked, his hand on the controls. Ready. Ji-woo settled into the co-pilot seat, which now had her own science equipment installed nearby. As they prepared to launch, an emergency beacon came through. A distress call from a damaged ship in an asteroid field. Alliance Rescue said it was too dangerous to attempt. Daeung and Ji-woo looked at each other and smiled.